All right, so we've talked about the basic tools we'll need to actually access the dark web. But before we dive any deeper into how to use these tools, I think it's important that we go over a brief history of each one. That way, we can get a clearer picture of the timeline behind the dark web and a timeline of those tools used. The tools we'll be talking about throughout this video are going to be three of the main tools used on the dark web. And those tools are, of course, the Tor web browser, Bitcoin, and the Tails operating system. So the first tool we're going to be talking about here is the actual Tor web browser. Now, while the Tor web browser wasn't officially created until the early 2000s, the idea of onion routing, which is the backbone to Tor, was created in the mid-1990s by the U.S. Naval Research Laboratory. And they created this idea of onion routing to be able to securely send communication over the internet without people being able to intercept it or know who it was coming from. This idea of onion routing was further developed by DARPA in 1997 until the first version of Tor was released in September 22nd, 2002. From there, it only took a few years for the Tor code to officially be released, and this was in 2004. And then, of course, in 2006, the Tor project nonprofit was officially created. And this is Tor as we know it today. There are, of course, a lot of dates that are important to Tor's development and creation, but these are the basic ones we'll want to focus on and you'll want to know for the rest of this course. On top of that, let's talk about Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the main payment method used on the dark web and is one of the most important tools you'll learn, not just for dark web use, but just general internet use. Bitcoin is a very popular thing right now, and it's never bad to learn a little bit more. So Bitcoin actually wasn't first created until August 15th, 2008, and the creator of Bitcoin goes by the name of Satoshi Nakamoto, although no one knows exactly who that is. Some believe it's a group of people, others believe it was one person, but it's never actually been confirmed who officially created the idea behind Bitcoin. But it only took about a year, less than a year, for the actual first Genesis block to be mined, and this was the very first Bitcoin to ever be released into the public. About 2 years later, the Silk Road market was created, and this is important to the Bitcoin process because this was a dark web market that sprung the use of Bitcoin and caused its value to go up dramatically over the next few months and years. And about 2 years later, Bitcoin reached its first all-time high, where it reached about $1,216 for one Bitcoin. But it only took about a year later for Silk Road to be shut down, and the US government seized 22,000 Bitcoins, reselling them to the public, causing a dramatic drop in the value of Bitcoins. This, of course, is just a brief overview of Bitcoin as well. There can be many parts of its history explored to get a better understanding of what it is, but this course isn't based around Bitcoin, it's based around the dark web, and of course Bitcoin is vital to that, so it's important we touch on Bitcoin. The last tool we'll be talking about here is the Tails operating system. A short history on this one as well. It wasn't first created until June 23rd, 2009. From about 2009 to 2014, there wasn't much news when it comes to Tails. However, a German TV show did release on July 3rd, 2014, a report that the NSA, which is an American surveillance agency, was actually tracking Tails users. And if you visited the Tails website, you were flagged and deemed as a threat in the NSA's eyes. Another German newspaper reported on December 28th, 2014, that the NSA deemed Tails a major threat to their operation and, when used with other cryptographic tools, catastrophic in the eyes of national security. So not much history behind Tails, but you can obviously see when you have a national government surveillance agency worried about Tails, it kind of proves for itself the anonymity and usefulness of this tool. So we got a basic understanding of the history, but let's look at a quick few graphs to understand a little bit more about Tor and Bitcoin. Here you can see the directly connected users to Tor. You can see the spike in 2014, and that was due to the Silk Road market being opened and at its height, but it slowly fell after that marketplace was actually closed. And then you can see the Bitcoin here. This was actually the Bitcoin daily transactions, which has been steadily growing since its release in 2008 and appears to have no intention of going down anytime soon. The last little chart we'll look at here is the actual hidden web services available on the dark web. You can see that none there is the largest portion of websites on this hidden service. The none just means these are websites that are down, broken, or otherwise not usable, which is a large portion of the dark web. And then the largest that's actually categorized is the drug marketplaces, which run just under 10% of all of the dark web. And then you have the rest there going down in sequential order. Hopefully this video gave you a better understanding of some of the history behind the tools of the dark web. We didn't go into too much depth on any of them. It's not required for this course to know any of that, but it's a good idea just to know their relation to each other and how they work together to create this idea behind the dark web. In the next video, we'll be exploring some of the common myths behind the dark web, and we'll try to debunk them, and after that we'll dive headfirst into the actual tools used to access the dark web and get our footing before diving into using the dark web for the first time.